What's up, YouTube? I hope your presents are wrapped in under the tree or stockings or stuff, because Christmas is right around the corner. And I'm already starting to think about my thank you cards for 2025. So today we're in the art studio. I'm going to show you the entire design process from start to finish to watercolor our own thank you cards using stencils. And they're going to have a nice little Happy New Year message on there in Hawaiian. Sounds like a lot of work, but it's going to be a ton of fun. So let's get busy.
So the first thing we got to do is open up Adobe Fresco. Fresco is a free piece of software from Adobe, and if you haven't used it before, I highly recommend it. I'm going to use my standard template, which is 5x7. That's the standard size for my greeting cards that I order off of Amazon. And I'm just going to start laying out the words. Happy New Year in Hawaiian is Hau'oli Makahikiho, and that should actually be spelled with an A instead of an O. You can see me making my little corrections, and I'm actually inserting what they call an okina. This is kind of like a glottal stop. It helps to understand the pronunciation, so you know that when you're saying Hau'oli, there's like a little space between Hau and Oli. So Hau'oli Makahikiho is Happy New Year. There it's spaced correctly, and I'm just kind of laying out my general inking. Now that I've got the pattern, I'm going to throw this over to the Cricut machine. And with the power of Cricut, it's going to cut into vinyl for me. So if you've never used a Cricut, the machine is basically a printer with a blade instead of ink. And I'm going to use it to cut through vinyl so I can make essentially a sticker in the shape of that pattern that I just made, in the shape of that image. We're going to use that as a stencil. So I'm making about 12 cards, so I printed a ton of these. I got to cut them out to separate them and make sure I don't actually cut over the lines. You can buy this vinyl or this sticker paper either in sheets or in bulk rolls. I buy them in a huge roll because it's just cheaper that way. And I learned that trick because I used to be a sign maker. So we're going to do a process called weeding, and what that is it's removing the sticker or the positive space of the sticker from the negative space. So I got to take out all the parts of the sticker I don't want as the image. So I got my 3 trusty tools, my blade, my Spyderco, a weeding tool, which is essentially almost like a dentist tool. It's going to help me pick at the sticker, and then fine needle nose tweezers. So with the blade, I'm just cutting out general shapes around the image, because as you'll see, as I start to remove the negative space of the sticker, it's going to be really easy for that sticker to stick on itself and then stick on other parts of the sticker. And you could be like 3/4 of the way through the weeding process and accidentally screw up your design because you basically just created a big ball of sticker that stuck to itself. And I've done that many times before. So I'll cut these lines out so that I can work in smaller areas and I'm not having to peel back giant pieces of sticker that can be a liability to my process. So you can see me pulling away the negative space there and taking out the puka or the hole in the A, and I'm going to just continue on to the rest of the design. I got to make sure I don't accidentally remove the okina either. This is obviously kind of a tedious process, but the reason why I love making my own cards is because it's so easy to just buy a card and, scribble a little message and then send it out. But when I force myself to make cards for my friends or my family, it really sets a level of intention into the gratitude that I'm putting into it. I don't know if that makes sense, but it allows me the process of actually thinking about that person and actually, being grateful for the thing it is that they've done for me or whatever I'm thanking them for, as opposed to me just kind of going through the motions. And don't get me wrong, I buy greeting cards all the time, and I think That's definitely the way to go sometimes because you just don't have the time. But if you do have the time, making your own greeting cards, man, it's so worth it. You could buy a pack of, I think I get them in packs of 50 blank watercolor cards. And, you know, it just makes the process, to me, it's a 2-for-1. Not only am I saving money on like ridiculously overpriced greeting cards, but I get this little Zen moment of mindfulness where I'm actually paying very close attention to the gratitude that I am intending to send the person that I'm sending this card to. So I love it. Anyway, you can see the weeding process, super tedious, but like I said, it's a little bit of a Zen break in my day. And once you get rolling, like once you learn the pattern, pulling away the negative space of the pattern, the rest of them get easier and easier and easier. And like for me, I just start acting like a robot and I just start banging them out. So you'll see, I got the first one here, and basically I'm just gonna do 11 more exactly like that, where I'm just gonna start cutting out all of the negative space. And you can see now that I got my process down, I know where I can take shortcuts without having to worry too much. I know it's faster for me to just peel off the entire ohia lehua blossom and put those little dots back in as opposed to try to work around them. I learned little tricks like that. So the image that I'm doing here with the Happy New Year message is the Ko'olau mountain range, and that's, you know, the mountain range that is right behind me where I live. I was born and raised in Kaneohe on the island of Oahu. And it's the inside lip of a gigantic crater that has long since, transformed the island essentially, where half of the crater actually sunk to the ocean, and the other half of it is still standing, and that's the Ko'olau mountain range. So it's pretty cool. It's very, very majestic mountain range. But just beneath that, I've got all that foliage in there. It's the ohia lehua plant, and there's a really cool legend that goes with that, but I'll talk about that when we paint. Right now, I'm sticking the image down onto transfer tape. So transfer tape is basically a giant roll of masking tape. I also buy that in bulk. And I'm just gonna you can see I'm almost like using a credit card or that flat surface to press down the masking tape on the design. And I'll fold down the edges just so that it doesn't accidentally peel away and I can work on it later. So I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward. You won't see me do the rest of these, but I'm basically doing a batch of 12 of these. So once I'm all done, I'm going to start applying them to my blank cards. And so I'm peeling away the sticker backing. That's what was part of the vinyl that I had cut, right? The blade didn't go all the way through the sticker backing, so it just cuts through the vinyl, not through the backing. And so you can put it on that transfer tape, and I can line up that transfer tape right onto the card. And I'm just using the edge of the design to kind of center it and make sure that everything is straight. And once I'm pretty comfortable, it doesn't have to be perfect. If it's a little rough, that's all right. That's what makes a handmade card look like a handmade card, right? I'm just gonna go ahead and press down on the vinyl, on the sticker, and the vinyl's adhesive is actually a little bit stronger than the masking tape or the transfer tape adhesive, so it's gonna let me peel away the transfer tape. The vinyl sticker will remain stuck to the card, and it's kind of hard to see it here, but trust me, it's there. You'll see it when the light hits it the right way. But I'm peeling away the transfer tape, and what's basically left behind is that stencil image of the vinyl stuck onto my watercolor card. And I'll hold it up to the camera so it's a little bit easier to see here. Okay, there it is. And so this is going to work as a really nice stencil so that when we watercolor our design, it's going to leave these crisp white lines that we'll have when we peel them away. So lining it up on the card, and I'm going to do again 12 of these. So I'm kind of in my robot mode, fast forwarding through time so that you don't have to see the painstaking process of this whole thing. But yeah, once you get into a groove, it is pretty satisfying. Okay, now comes the fun part. It's time to watercolor. I'm going to use 3 brushes here. It's the liner. It's like a tiny round, but I'm going to use that brush primarily for details. And I don't need details unless I screw something up. And you'll see it's pretty easy to do that. I'm going to use a wash brush, and then I'm also going to use a chiseled round or an angled brush. You can see it kind of looks like a dagger or like a chisel. Okay, I'm gonna make sure I got some fresh water, and I'm gonna start washing the larger areas. I'm gonna start with the Ko'olan mountain range, and I'm just gonna start washing the negative space, or the space that I intend the paint to flow to. And just by getting the watercolor paper wet and kind of saturating it a bit, it's going to help let the paint travel into all the cracks and crevices within the parts of the design that I want it to. So the nice thing about using stencils here is you can work pretty quickly and not have to worry about details. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm not a very detail-oriented person. I'm more of a, you get the gist of it kind of a person. So, yeah, this is very helpful for my personality type. So I'm going to mix some deep green here, and I'm going to actually pull in some darker blues just because I want to capture some of the, the richer shadows in the valleys of the mountain range. I'm even going to splash some black in there so that we have some deep dark colors that'll creep up from the inside parts of that Ko'olan mountain range. So you can see, letting it crawl up there. If you've got any kind of stress or anxiety or high blood pressure, I have to say, of all the different things I do to relieve stress, watercoloring is probably one of my favorites, because watching the water spread and just letting the color do its thing, it really teaches you something about how to deal with problems and just go with the flow. I'm liking where we're at with the mountains right now. I'm gonna add some lighter greens to kind of simulate the light that's splashing along the edge of the ridge of the Ko'olan mountain range. So as I work my way up the ridge, you're going to see me kind of move to the lighter green. Just kind of reapplying water here and there so that my light green spreads and kind of mixes to create this rich gradient of different greens and blues. That's looking pretty cool. Okay. So once I'm done with the mountains, I think I'm gonna move into the foliage, and I'm thinking purple is where I want to go. And you're gonna see a lot of repeating patterns in my watercolor work, especially in the foliage. It takes a lot of design influence from Okinawan art style called Bengata. Japanese also have a very similar type of relief dye technique that they use on textiles. But what I really love is the way that they use these very simple repeating patterns that are usually things that represent nature or some sort of iconic symbol from the natural world. And so I'm gonna just use these kind of wave or hump-like patterns for the general foliage just below the mountain range. And like I was saying, I'm gonna lean towards my purples and try to kind of create some rich contrast in there. I'm just getting some magenta and some blue. I'm working them in to some of these little kind of curvy shapes you'll see. Switching to a smaller brush for this, switching to my chisel. I can really get in there and work a little faster. And like I said, we're gonna peel away the vinyl stencil afterwards, so that's why you can work so quickly when you're painting this in this style or this technique, because you don't have to worry about staying within the lines. You can literally paint just like right over the lines. The paint will not stick to the vinyl, and you're going to peel that away anyway. So it makes it very simple. Once I get most of this purple laid in, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my grays so that I can get the Ohia Lehua blossom plant in there. And so that's going to be the main flower, or the main plant that's going to be at the foreground here. It's the Ohia Lehua is a very popular and prominent flower here in the islands, and it is also, you know, after a lava flow, it is typically going to be one of the first plants that will break through that lava and start to seed and start to forest. And so that's kind of the reason why I chose that to be one of the symbols of our New Year's card, because I really wanted it to represent, you know, growth and opportunity for 2025. There's a really cool story actually behind the Ohia Lehua plant. It's a legend that is tied back to Pele, the goddess of fire. If you guys are familiar, Pele is the goddess that lives in Kilauea volcano on the big island of Hawaii, and Pele has plenty stories all over the islands. Her family also has a lot of stories that are associated with a lot of the land formations and a lot of the spots all across the state. And so the story behind the Ohia Lehua is that there were two lovers, and it was a really handsome guy and this really beautiful woman that were in love with each other, and Pele was actually jealous of their love, and I think she kind of fancied Ohia, which was the guy, and so she turned him into the gnarled branches of the Ohia plant, and had him, banished up into the mountains and the hills where the Ohia thrives to this day. And some say out of remorse, or maybe she felt bad for what she did, she actually turned Lehua, the female, into the blossom that sits right on top of the Ohia plant. And so they were destined to be together forever, for eternity. And growing up, I remember people would say, the thing that people would whisper. I remember walking home from school and there'd be kids that would tell me, don't pick that flower, because if you pick the flower, it's going to rain. And, we would try it from time to time, and sure enough, it would rain. But they say that, when the lovers are separated, you will get the tears of Ohia and Lehua, who are crying because they're separated from each other. So kind of a cool backstory to this beautiful blossom. It's a very unique looking plant. If you don't know about it or haven't heard about it, you should definitely Google it. The Ohia Lehua. I'm going in with some deep reds, and then I'm going to kind of add some lighter, like orangey yellows to the tips of the blossom. And that should kind of finish up, the main part of the image. And then we can kind of tackle the sky. So you can see how I just kind of broadly started with a wash inside of the flower, inside of the blossom. And then I go in with pigment, go in with a brush that's loaded with color, and just let the color seep out from the brush right into the water. and spread that way. And again, that's one of my favorite things about watercolor. It's so satisfying. It's so relaxing just to watch it do its work. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how that's turning out. I think we can move on to the sky soon. So for the colors behind the words, I want to wash all the way across so that when I go in with pigment, it spreads really nicely and kind of gives me these organic shapes that are almost like clouds. And so I go with a broad wash first, and then you can see me just starting to drop pigment in light tones first so that I can kind of blend it. And then I'm going to go a little bit heavier with the pigment, a little more saturated with the color behind the words so that those words themselves, Haoli Makahikiho, just pop right through the sky. So, getting some good blues in there, sticking to that theme of the blues and the magentas that are kind of mirrored below. Yeah, there's nothing better for blood pressure than a good watercolor session. One of the things about watercolor that's really important is that you take a break before you peel away your stencil. So I'm going to let you stare at my fish for a second while we let that watercolor dry. Because if you try to pull that sticker away before the paper is fully dry, you're going to end up peeling away part of the paper along with your sticker. And that's exactly what I do here with the H. I fail. I screw it up. And I want to show you guys that because this is how we roll. You know, you don't panic. You just kind of go with it. The most important thing is you do not panic and just start ripping off big pieces. Which is what I've done many times before. You just keep your cool. Make sure that paper is dry and remove what you can. You can always go in with your touch-up liner brush to finish things off at the very end. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of fast forward through time. Let you watch how satisfying it is to just pull that stencil away. You can see just how that clean white lines just pop against the background of that watercolor color, which is what I love about this process. And you get the big pieces like that, where you can just get big pieces of the pattern to pull away all at once. Oh, that's the best. So satisfying. If you're interested in doing any of these patterns, just go ahead and leave me a comment. And if I get enough comments, I'll consider putting these up somewhere where people can download a copy for themselves. If you're not, I totally get it. If you're not graphically inclined, but you still want to participate and do this along with me, yeah, that'd be cool. Looks like we're just about wrapped up here. Just pulling off the final pieces and touching up my mistake in the beginning. And there we go. A handmade watercolor stenciled New Year's card. Haoli Makahikiho! Happy 2025 to you guys. I hope you had fun with me. I had fun with you. If you like this, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you next time on Art Bento.